Even though the Sugar and Stamp Acts were protested and violence occurred, the encroachments did not stop there. The King and Parliament reasoned that if English troops were stationed in the colonies, then the colonies needed to house and feed them. The Quartering Act of 1765 required that colonies house British soldiers in barracks provided by the colonies. If the barracks were too small to house all of the soldiers, then the different localities where the soldiers were stationed were to accommodate the soldiers in different buildings, such as local inns, livery stables, alehouses, victualling houses, and the houses of sellers of wine. Should there still be soldiers without accommodation after all such public houses were filled, the act read, the colonies were then required to take, hire, and make fit for the reception of His Majesty's forces such and so many uninhabited houses, outhouses, barns, and other buildings as shall be necessary. In one sense, this was not a direct tax, and yet in another sense, it certainly was a tax, since it was still coming out of the pockets of the various building ownerships, and the soldiers were living in them. We felt that it was still another encroachment on our rights. Sam Adams and the Sons of Liberty not only protested against the different acts and laws, but also created various disturbances, public and otherwise. They also started to communicate with the other colonies. They formed committees of correspondence to inform the other colonies about what was going on in Massachusetts and what the King and Parliament were actively doing to bring them to their knees. They had a system of writers taking letters to the committees in the other colonies. One of those writers was Paul Revere. We are blessed with the presence of Eliza Pinckney from South Carolina, which I would like to defer to at this time because I would like to know, and I'm sure you would also, how these committees of correspondence were received and functioned in South Carolina. So, Eliza, could you tell us what was going on in South Carolina as Sam Adams was sending out his writers as far south as South Carolina?
Well, yes, the committees of correspondence are instrumental in this present conflict. As a matter of fact, my eldest son, Charles Cotsworth, serves on our very own committee of correspondence in South Carolina. He does not involve me too much in the matters of politics, but I do hear things when they are meeting and smoking their pipes in my drawing room. They are so important to send letters to our other colonies, our sister colonies. At this time, understand, my dear friends, it takes up to 8 days for a letter to reach Boston from Philadelphia, which is only 300 miles. Imagine then how much longer it could take for us to send something up from Charlestown or perhaps somewhere even in Georgia from the deep south up to our northern sisters. We have groups of men, therefore, in every colony who are specifically devoted to communicating with other colonies. We have men who are specifically devoted to bringing these messages at breakneck speed all the way over to another colony. It would be very difficult for us to coordinate such things as non-importation or even to be informed of a passage of an act of Parliament if we did not have the ability to communicate with our sister colonies. And so for that reason, I think that it is very important that we continue the work we are doing now and not be so hasty as to disband these committees just because we believe that Parliament may or may not be softening towards us.
Thank you, Eliza. That's very informative. We appreciate that update. About this time, the colonies had the Stamp Act Congress, which we came together and we sent a letter to the King and Parliament saying that we would request that they repeal the Stamp Act, which they did not do.